in 2025, I experienced 36 new coasters at 9 different parks, and a few plus ones for my somewhat annual adventures in Pigeon Forge. Some of these were brand new for the year, while others were additions to places I've visited in the past, all over the course of about 4 different trips. While there was one significant adventure I didn't get to, I think it was still a somewhat successful year, bringing me into new coaster credit threshold and experience some top tier attractions. So make sure to check out all of the vlogs I have linked down in the description below. And while you're down there, maybe consider hitting that little subscribe button if you're new here and you like what I do. But for now, please secure all those loose articles, sit up right and hold on tight. It's time to count down my top 10 new roller coasters of 2025. I promise I'm only going to do that like one more time. This is what you guys get for me being a ride-op for about 10 years. Starting things off, we're heading to what's about to become my home park once I move down to North Carolina next year. While Thunderstriker might not be the best B&M hyper I've ever ridden, it was a bit of a white whale for being down during my visit in 2021. And also gives me a good opportunity to honorable mention a few top-tier hypers I re-rode for the first time in a good decade or two. While I was doing this redemption tour, I also went down to Atlanta, and that meant being reintroduced to the amazing airtime and godly downward helix of Goliath. Then, on my other big trip of the year, my visit to post-2024 Great Adventure meant some nitro power lapping. Honestly, 2 of the best out and back V&Ms I've been on, they absolutely demolished Diamondback back in my lifetime Cincinnati Park. Not that I have anything against Diamondback, just those 2. Yeah. As number 10 itself though, it's aight. My first few rides didn't really blow me away too much, but getting a front seat lap at the end of the day more than made up for all the floater that I ended up missing before. So I'm hoping I just kind of caught on a bad day and I'm going to appreciate it more as care wins because of my main park. The lats on the first few high turns are pretty nice though, and it's a decent ride overall for something that borders Camp Snoopy in the parking lot. At the very least, it's a very fantastic addition to the skyline, or at least it would be if not for something that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. Moving on from my first trip of the year to my big one of the summer, the next entry comes from the Mall of America of the Northeast. While Shellraiser was unfortunately non-operational during my visit, and I mean a good month after I got back, they basically announced that it was going up again, so there was still plenty to do at the American Dream. Of all the rides that were open though, I'm gonna have to give this one to Sandy's Blasting Bronco. This little launch element had quite the kick in its launch, even more so in round 2 when the thing rotated around backwards. Definitely a case of good things come in small packages. While there wasn't much to the layout really, it's mainly just, you know, the launch into inversion, something like that. The first and third element still has a pretty good float, which was welcome in a park that doesn't really have any airtime. And the minimalistic lap bars give some great hang time as you look out the windows to the Big Apple. Definitely not the star of the park, but I'm more than happy to make another visit in the future because this mall is absolutely massive, filled with so many things I didn't have time to do in one day. Speaking of that trip though, our next journey takes place about 1 state away in one of the Pennsylvania parks I ended the adventure with. While Dorney Park may not be the most well-known Six Flags park, and I'm so glad that it's starting to not feel weird calling the Cedar Fair Park Six Flags parks now. It is filled with some old charm and a handful of fun roller coasters, including the new for 2024 mini dive machine that I'm about to talk about, Iron Menace. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. I love steampunk, or industrial, I guess this thing more is, but it's still steampunk, it counts. Personal biases aside, though, this is my first time doing a dive coaster that's more than just a vertical drop, and let me just say those extra degrees actually do make the difference. So much so that I think the backseat's honestly better on this thing, as when that holding brake at the top of the lift hill releases, you absolutely get yeeted out of your seat going in the backseat. The rest of the layout's fine, it's just kind of your standard B&M and inversion machine tied on to a nice little gimmick, but I will say that I didn't get too much of that famed rattle everyone's been talking about with these new B&Ms over the last few years. There was definitely some in that last turnaround, the last helix, but the rest of it I honestly didn't feel too much, and I was like paying attention for the rattle. But yeah, theming goes hard. Between the fantastic station and amazing dispatch sequence with the alternating soundtrack that follows you all the way up to the top of the lift hill, and of course the drop itself, that sequence before all the loop-de-loops really makes this attraction feel special. Dear Six Flags, take note, a little bit of theming done like this really goes a long way for the experience, as we'll see in another example of that in just a little bit. Speaking of Pennsylvania though, I'm going to use any excuse possible to revisit Knoebels. You guys know that. One of my favorite independent parks. This place oozes charm, and I'm not going to say it every time. More importantly, though, Coney, you want to come here? Want to be on camera? You can be on the camera, dog. Look at the dark. I'm recording at night. Coney. There she is. She will come with one time, and she will ride the trains. Anyways, a few newer coasters eluded me till this visit, including the one that takes lucky number 7. Flying Turns is one of a kind tribute to, well, the Flying Turns coasters of old. These things are a bobsled style ride where the train kind of rocks freely in a half-pipe shaped thorough, and this one in particular was house built because Knoebels is insane like that and I love them for it. Unfortunately, during my first visit it was still under construction, and during round 2 a few years ago they were putting a new lift hill on, so I was 0 for 2 on my 2 Knoebels visits for this thing being operational. Was it worth the wait? Well, it did make the list over the also newly experienced Impulse for a reason. While the first section was a bit lackluster, it was clearly just kind of a warm-up for what was to come. After that second lift hit, it absolutely whips you through every turn, having the train fly dangerously high up those walls that half-pipe back and forth. It's a super fun sensation to experience, especially with how long the ride is from that second lift hill to the mini lift finale, whatever, which gives the experience a very satisfying length. Definitely would love to have experienced it more, but I was busy trying to check off everything new for Knoebels list in about 2 hours after spending half the day at Dorney Park. And this sure is the park where Phoenix is, so, you know, priorities. Okay, I swear I did stuff outside this Northeast adventure this year. But, one more thing from New Jersey before I get to the top 5. I haven't been to Six Flags Great Adventure in a good 15 years, and even though 2025 was certainly an eventful season for that park, it was still in the area and I have a Six Flags pass, so you know, why not? I'm happy to report that they're new for 2025. Flash kind of do be slapping though. Once again, a bit decisive with this launched thrill ride opening right after Kingda Ka was unceremoniously demolished. So that was certainly a choice, but let's just talk about Vertical Velocity itself, which is also kind of a tribute to another launched superhero shuttle coaster in the days of old. So that's cool. This one is Next Gen Vekoma, which you guys should know by now I am a huge fan of. The boomerang layout that it has is first was kind of here in North America, as the only other one at time of writing this is in China. This swing launch coaster is filled with floaty spikes and inversions with a sound lighting package on the train. Maybe not as plus up as Iron Menace that we were just talking about, but hey, every little bit counts. And I would have loved to have seen this thing go at night. Never really got the front seat experience on it for reasons. I know how it's gonna go on. But I did enjoy my back row ride where the G-forces seemed a little bit more accentuated. This is top 3 for the park now, alongside of Nitro and El Toro, but we're gonna have to wait a year or 2 to see just what's in store for that fabled Kingda Ka replacement. Rest in peace, King. I sadly never really got to experience you since my first visit was when it was super uber busy, but if you're anything like Top Thrill Dragster, I'm sure you are absolutely legendary. Okay, on to the big guns in the top 5. If you guys want to help support my coaster adventures in the years to come, maybe consider dropping a tip to Rayon Skybridge on Ko-Fi. It's kind of like Patreon, but I'm too lazy to figure out tiers for that, so before I get one set up, you can just donate whatever you want towards travel fees and admissions to the parks that I tend to vlog. Or, you know, just subscribe. That's a free way to support the channel and let YouTube know that I do awesome card game and coaster content. Anyway, big horse spiel run done. Let's get back to the best of 2025. So, now how I just compared Kingda Ka and Top Thrill Dragster a minute ago. Well, living in Ohio means I get to do a Cedar Point trip every year or so, and this time we're treated to 2 amazing new additions. Guess which one we're going over first? Story time. A few years ago, bad things happened on one of the world's tallest and fastest roller coasters. I won't really bore you guys with the details, so long and short of it all, prayers and respects to all those involved. And it caused Imperla to eventually come in and completely redo this intimate Stratocoaster with a brand new launch system, trains, and even a full back spike. So yeah, absolutely counting this thing as a new credit. Now, while this thing was originally a record breaker, that was something I kind of skipped over unless I had time, because while it was great, let's be real here. This is Cedar Point we're talking about, and Dragster's kind of a one-trick pony. I see that the upgrade has turned this into not only something that I can't skip whenever I go, but potentially top 5 in the park, which may not seem like a lot, but again, this is a rockin' roller coaster that we're talking about here. Filled to the brim with world-class roller coasters. As for the experience itself, while Imperla themselves aren't really known to have forceful launches or any launches at all, let's be real, they used to just make a bunch of kiddie coasters and other stuff. There's still an okay kick to the initial one, and by the time that backwards lap started, it pretty much feels like you're going at full force. That speed is still absolutely insane, as the backwards spike gives you some legend airy, sustains to any floater airtime. No, I'm not sorry I did that. And between the new higher seating arrangement from the trains and the swing launch, it kicks that main top hat into overdrive. I'm talking you used to just gamble on if you made over at a decent clip or the potential rollbacks, because now rollbacks are part of the ride experience, to the fact that now you just go zoom, boom, 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 full speed, clear that thing, absolute airtime heaven. While I couldn't really get a true backseat experience to the ride because assigned seating, have fun, experiencing Red 2 pretty much ejects you from the seat from that quarter twist up the main hill, leaving you out of your seat until that vertical spiral back down. Hands down one of the craziest moments of airtime I've ever had the pleasure to experience. And once again, I'm the crazy Phoenix guy. Then there's that crazy head chopper from the station on the way down that back spike. Completely legal having that little clearance going about 100 miles per hour. Realistically, if I had any complaints about this thing, outside of, oh no, the cable launch is so much different, it's the soundtrack. The launch cycle, it does have a few variations, which is kind of cool for re-rideability and stuff, but whatever happened to Ready to Go? I'm ready to go to number 4 on the list now. Back at Carowinds, the artist formerly known as Intimidator wasn't the only big B&M that was down during my visit a few years ago. It just wasn't a world-renowned Giga Coaster that specifically found a way to break down every single time I got a line for it that day. So, the Big Bad Bee Coaster that keeps winning Golden Ticket Awards for the best steel ride. Don't think it's gonna top things like Time Traveler or Velocicoaster for me, but I could maybe toss it on my top 10 somewhere. Fury 325 is a high-speed, low-to-the-ground experience, just like one of my favorites, Pantherion 305. Unlike that Intamin though, this one's a little bit more airtime focused, and while the turns are still pretty whippy, they pale in comparison to the aggressive transitions that the Cat Car friend up north can produce. Still, having a similar sensation that's more manageable makes it much better than Marathon, and that first drop is second only to Orion, and a sensation of never ending on a near vertical plunge. I mean, I gotta give the questionable gig at Kings Island some credit after all. For me, the standout moment on this thing is that treble clef turnaround, whatever you want to call it. Not only does it give you a sideways pop of air, but then it plunges you into a lit up tunnel that goes right underneath the park's entry bridge for an awesome experience on and off the ride. And that goes for the whole thing, as a good portion of this layout zooms over the park entryway, giving some great views as you enter and leave the State Line Six Flags property. Overall, not sure if it deserves the annual golden ticket hype over some of the other steals I've experienced, but I can see the hype, and it'll probably land on my personal top 10 somewhere, like I said. I'm sure I'll come to see the lighthouse, oh god, I'm blind, as I give it some more laps as the headliner of my future home park once I get moved down to the Charlotte area. In bronze, we're heading back up to Northeast one last time, because I call that trip my road to 400 for a reason. There was a certain historical coaster and a certain historical park that I was saving for a coaster credit threshold, and this summer it was finally time to head to the park that is part of the reason my dog's name is Coney. That's right, we're talking about the Coney Island Cyclone. This nearly 100-year-old legend was certainly worth the wait, as it was filled with all sorts of forces. Bouncy floater, violent ejector, and some downright insane laterals around every single flat curve. All that was plus up by the old school trains with comfortable benches and a padded single position lap bar. Now, as a single rider, I got to slide all over my seat during those crazy corners, but I can't even imagine what it would be like without the seat divider if you're actually riding with someone else once you go around the turns. Additionally, this was probably the best example of it being important to experience different parts of the attraction this year, as the front focused on those legendary laterals, while the back instead insisted on more of that buffet of airtime that I mentioned before. Definitely a classic worth checking out, and at the birthplace of the modern amusement park that even today proves itself as a testing ground for a major attraction company. I'd be more than happy to head back sometime. Just need to find a better way to deal with New York prices. Alright then, first and second. I've gone back and forth on these two so many times, so either way it feels really weird placing one above the other. So make sure to voice your opinions on this duo down below, or comment anything cool about your 2025 theme park season below. But before we dive into that, remember this is only a list of the new experiences. So here's a few general honorable mentions this year. Literally anytime I go to Knoebels, it's the highlight of my year. I'll try to keep it short since I can go on for days about this place, so here's the TLDR. Phoenix is one of the best wooden coasters in the world. While I just talked about Cyclone's crazy forces, if you want to fly, nothing beats the floater. nothing beats the ejector. Like, this is just airtime heaven, especially Rose. I refuse to ride anywhere else after experiencing that. Besides that though, the park just exudes charm, from its train rides through the woods, to its highly themed flying bobs, to its roller coaster tycoon little food stalls, and basically everything in between. This is a place that I will make any excuse to go to, especially since it's doggo friendly and I can actually have Coney explore and go on a few rides. But yeah, Phoenix Grove 3 is my happy place. Speaking of Goodwood though, I was cautiously excited to revisit Great Adventure this year, even after its multiple removals at the end of 2024. Well, unfortunately, Cause is gone. The world-renowned Intamin prefab is right next to its remains, and I famously completely forgot about it after my first visit was immediately followed by Canova's. See above. This time I kind of did the same thing, but I at least was able to record my immediate thoughts on El Toro Ryan's namesake, so I actually can appreciate this thing now. Still no Phoenix, but I mean the first few hills are insane ejector, and that hill into the Raging Bull Turns, wherever that section's called, is just downright legendary. Probably my top 5 wood list somewhere, but it's hard to compare when I regularly get to ride things like Phoenix, Voyage, and Mystic Timbers. Speaking of that guy at the other Six Flags park in Ohio that people somehow care about, quick shout out to the Beast. Well, I originally put this thing in the same camp as Top Thrill Dragster as kind of something I ride once or twice a year just to honor its legacy, especially nighttime. Kings Island, if you guys did not know, is literally the nighttime park of all time. The ongoing retrack that this thing's been given the last few years is actually pretty welcome when it gives you random things like that new airtime hill that goes right before the first brake shed. Honestly, turn one of those first few flat turns into an outer bank or an overbank or something like that, and we might actually be talking about turning the Beast into a coaster worthy of that title. Just please, 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 please do not ever touch that Helix. Kings Island, Six Flags, whoever's in charge of whatever's involved with restoring the Beast. Helix, no. That is the reason that the Beast is the Beast. Finally, quick shout out to the first trip of the year, my Atlanta and Carowinds Redemption Tour. In general, these were just a few parks that I've been burned at during past visits, but after a decent enough day at Six Flags and actually being able to ride things at Carowinds, let's just say it was a big factor in my decision to move down to Charlotte in the near future. Real quick, Six Flags Over Georgia shout out, since I haven't really mentioned it all besides Goliath. Gold Rusher was a pretty decent new addition as a family roller coaster with some good forces. Unfortunately, did not get it when it was spinning, but still fun for the airtime, especially sitting in front where you just like go to the very end of that peak. Place has Monster Mansion, and in general it's a pretty good park for the chain with a variety of great attractions and training that even elevates things like the Superman clone, even though, you know, that was like the original Superman. But, you know, we're not being Coaster Geek here. I'm literally just, this is a top 10 Coaster Geek video. Speaking of the Atlanta Redemption Tour though, one ride in particular has been my white whale for years. After about 3 visits when I was in the area for Card Fight Vanguard events, this ride, or this whole park, just seemed to be closed for one reason or the other. That's right, we're talking about the God Tier RMC in the middle of nowhere, Area Force 1. Now, even walking through the unfortunately very empty line, I was impressed by all the airplane time theming that led up to the station, where even the trains were given a sleek, stealth bomber-esque front and cockpit decals. Even the pre-board and dispatch had some airplane-themed audio cues, which is just insane theming for the star attraction of this go-kart park that doesn't nearly get nearly as much attention as it deserves. People, please go visit the park. But how was the ride experience itself? Let's just say that Steel Vengeance may not be my number 1 RMC anymore. Jury's still out on that after riding both back and forth this year, but I am kind of leaning towards this small Atlanta one. This thing absolutely flies through the layout. From the top of that main drop to the brake ground, it feels like you never lose out on that 64 mile per hour top speed. And the maneuvers you take from that outward bank turnaround to the crazy trust drive inversion that was easily the highlight for me, to the absolute insanity of that low to the ground helix surrounded by twin barrel rolls over the arcade. I'm not even gonna talk about the quad round finale, mainly because I think the one on Lightning Rod still tops it, and my knees somehow weren't smashed during it, even though that's what everyone says from all the airtime. I literally can only say good things about this hidden gem, half an hour away from Six Flags. Go to Fun Spot Atlanta now. But yeah, Trust Dive is absolutely where it's at. It gives you a floaty airtime pop as you twist one way, only to get absolutely ripped down the other as you just get some great hang time while you dive down. Pleased to be including more of these on some of your future masterpieces, Rocky Mountain. And on to number 1, which is gonna feel really weird following up a custom iBox masterpiece, because the official opening of Top Thrill 2 wasn't the only new hotness for Cedar Point this year. Well, I was pretty skeptical about adding a coaster with a vertical gimmick in between two other coasters with a vertical gimmick to one of their flagship parks instead of basically any small to mid-tier Six Flags property or Kings Island, because it would have been the perfect vortex replacement. This being my most experienced ride during this year's visit should be saying something. While the Curse is technically an off-the-shelf model from Tacoma, it's also the first tilt coaster that we've seen from them in decades, let alone outside of Asia. So it's a very welcome gimmick to experience. And what a gimmick it was. Well, yeah, this is the Instagram, oh my god, the track is broken moment. That's definitely a sensation that you have to experience, especially in the back of the train where you tilt higher than your original position thanks to, the power of gravity and logic. I'm sure front seating is just as magical, but with assigned seating on opening year, yeah, that wasn't happening, even with my fast lane. So maybe I'll have to try that next time. The experience itself was very much next-gen Vekoma goodness. Super smooth, floaty elements, and the back seat seemed to accentuate pretty much everything, while also granting you some pin to the back of your seat level forces. And that's just the ride itself. Cedar Point somehow elevated this to another level with its theming, providing pawns in its lakeside position, a random mist-filled subterranean tunnel, a simple yet effective dock station thing, and even the bottom of the supports were accented by things like fake rust and seaweed. Add that into the sound of seagulls, boats, and the call of the distant sirens, especially during that lift sequence, and you somehow make an off-the-shelf ride into one of the top 3 in this already legendary thrill park. Honestly, we may be looking at a new top 10 on my personal list, and I can't wait to try out the other American tilt coaster in Texas, or, see who wants one. Because of Europe, and the few that we're actually starting to see here in the Americas in the last few years, have anything to say, but Vekoma has absolutely evolved from its days of SLCs and boomerangs to top tier attractions in literally all levels, and I'm absolutely here for it. So yeah, Siren's Curse. House off-the-shelf model, legitimately probably one of my favorite coasters of all time now. So, that is the best of the best of the best for 2025. No Epic Universe from this attraction YouTuber this year, but hey, we need to save something for next year. So make sure you subscribe to see that vlog and any others I do next year go live. Honestly, with just about 420 credits here in the US of A, I'm starting to run out of new parks to visit and may have to start going international soon. So if you want to drop me a tip on ko-fi.com/RayonSkyridge to help fund future theme park adventures, that'd be appreciated. I swear I'll set up a proper Patreon like all the cool kids one of these days. But what about you all? Comment about your 2025 roller coaster adventures down below. Until next time, when this video comes to a complete stop, please exit quickly but safely to the left and enjoy the rest of your day here at YouTube, I guess. Always embrace the infinite.